mid-career professionals to help them make successful career transitions. We've been around since 1953, so our 65th birthday is next year. And we do 3 different kinds of programs. We do Monday morning meetings, usually in there with a lot more people, but I guess wet holidays are not a good idea. And we do evening meetings once a month, where it's kind of a networking session with little refreshments and similar sort of things, but usually a more general topic as opposed to more focused. These Monday morning meetings are focused on job search and job search strategies and job search coping, and the evening ones are a little broader about careers and career management and things like that. And then our main program is our training course. We run a 4-week hands-on intensive training course involving 43 hours of classroom activity, and teach people how to make a short speech, how to write a better resume, we hope, and how to write a better cover letter, and hopefully successfully transition from where
short speech.
Well, we call it
few words, or
we call it a teammate. We call it tell me about yourself, because it's the first question in most interviews. So we try to teach people how to tell about themselves in a way that resonates in 2 minutes. Or 1 minute, or 30 seconds.
It's hard to do.
So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Ken, who I guess will give you a little bit of an update on
You want to sit here? Yeah.
Come on in, Gina.
upcoming events. Yeah, we're going to sit in this circle.
Okay.
Well, thanks, everybody. As Eric said, it's good to see everyone again. Mostly familiar faces and some new faces and some brand new faces, so that's great. Before I introduce the speaker, we're going to do a couple of things. I want to tell you about a couple of events that 40 Plus is participating in and that you may be interested in, because like all nonprofits, we recognize that it takes a village. It takes a village of collaboration and cooperation to get our word out to other audiences, and we do the same for organizations that are familiar and friendly to us. And for those of you that have any type of interest in technology or technology-related career paths, when I had the slides up earlier about our upcoming events or the events that we're supporting, we are deepening our connection with an organization called the Women in Technology. Terrific group. They've got 2 events coming up this month that we're highlighting. One is what they call Meet the Company, where you actually go to one of their host companies to learn about the opportunities that they have and that they're looking to fill. This month, the Meet the Company organization is Geico. So not just insurance sales, but other opportunities within that very large company. They also host another event throughout the month, each month. And that networking event is listed on the slides as well. So we're getting much closer to that organization. We attended their career fair last week or 2 weeks ago. A terrific array of very large companies and also small government contractors. Again, primarily in the technology space, but they also need help with contracts administration, marketing, sales, and those kinds of opportunities. So again, womenintechnology.org is one group. There are a couple of commercial career fairs that are coming up in the next 2 weeks. That we'll be participating in. The Choice Career Fair is on the 19th. And then Arlington County, I think I mentioned this last week, Arlington County is hosting a career fair also on the 19th. And so you can look at their websites for more information on that. Before I introduce the speaker, and I gave a couple of folks a heads up about this, and if you've been here before, you know what's coming. We want to go around the room quickly. We've got such an intimate group today that we can do this, manage this. We want to just do introductions. And we want to be succinct and brief. And so we want to ask for your name, your profession or your field of work, and then 3 words that you feel capture who you are, or your state of mind today, or just to help our speaker understand a little bit more about who's here with us today. So I guess I have to start. So I'm Ken Shopman. I'm an association executive, and my 3 words for today are curious, careful, no, and helpful. So Eric, we'll end with Jennifer, so we'll go with that.
I'm Eric Girding, and I'm a reformed corporate finance executive, and I would say my 3 words are busy, worried, and helpful.
Great. I'm Lola Ortiz. I've come from the field of commerce and sales and retail. And my 3 words are perseverant, learner, and I think resourceful.
My name is Linda Gross. I'm a freelancer who's also done data entry and volunteering and house sitting. And 3 words for me today are crazy, concerned, and goofy.
Sorry?
Goofy. I have a weird sense of
One minute.
That's great.
My name is Gina Manley. I'm an events and operations guru, and my 3 words are Jersey, political, and kick-ass.
Hyphenating.
Hyphenated.
My name is Veronica. I'm a cleaner. My words, courage, and curious, and helpful.
Wonderful.
Hi, my name is Tom Goodwin. I'm a retired employment professional, about 35 years. My 3 words today, I guess, would be entrepreneurial, passionate, and political.
Peter.
My name's Peter Ensign. I'm an architect. I work in green building and green infrastructure. And my 3 words are curious, determined, and faith.
Jennifer DiMotta, and I work in e-commerce, and mine are courage, of course, purpose, and confidence.
So let me just give a little more background on Jennifer, and then I'll let her take it away. As she mentioned, she has an e-commerce background with over 20 years experience leading retailers and consumer product companies to double-digit revenue growth through vision, strategic planning, budgeting and goal governance, and top talent hiring and development. She's Vice President of Digital and Omnichannel at Blue Mercury, a fast-growing beauty retailer. Jennifer leads the company's omnichannel vision and execution, developing a strength in digital, marketing, and customer-focused strategies. Prior to launching her career, she held high-ranking positions at Sports Authority, Office Depot, Restockit.com, and Hayneedle. Jennifer served in the Army for 9 years as a nuclear biospecialist and ran her own personal training business. Leadership development, healthy living, and taking care of her family are Jennifer's top passion points. So we're very pleased to have you here. Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you. Hi.
Hello.
How are you? Good. Did you want Angela to?
Sure, Angela, we're doing a little introduction exercise.
Oh, okay.
So put you on the spot. And you can handle it. So
Sure.
your name, your profession or field, and then just 3 words that describe who you are or kind of your state of mind today.
I'm Angela Luna. I'm actually visiting from New York.
Wow.
I'm in Clean Production just recently for 6 months or so. And say 3 words of courage.
Just about who you are. And
Just always stay true to yourself.
that's a phrase. I love those. Folks haven't done phrases before.
Yeah,
That's
that's a
exciting.
phrase.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
True to yourself.
Thanks for being here.
Perfect. Okay, so this is my first time at 40 Plus. I think this is really neat, and part of it's because I am in my 40s and I am transitioning into a new career as we speak. I head up the e-commerce and omnichannel division at Blue Mercury right now. I've been there for a couple of years, but I have decided that for me, I want to open my own consulting practice. So that's DiMotta Consulting LLC. It looks like, and it's a maybe, but Blue Mercury may be my first client, which is kind of neat too. It's taken me quite a while. It's taken me a lot of courage to get up the nerve to actually go into my own business. So by the end of October, we'll be making that transition. So I thought this is a perfect place to have a conversation about courage. And when I talked about some of my life moments with Ken, he actually said, hey, why don't you talk about courage? And it's been really fun in the last 30 plus days to kind of look at what the definition is. Let me step back and really reflect on the moments I've had that involve courage. And why is it so important? I mean, why do you care about having courage? So we're going to talk about that some more. What I would like to do is see what each person would like to get out of this discussion. So would you like to start?
Well, I'd like to hear some of your stories.
Okay.
And I guess I'm just re-entering, looking for work after a time. So, some fortification.
Got it.
I'm also learning from other people's experience on that, how they had courage to move to the next step in their lives.
Okay, great.
Well, I'm also pleased to learn knowledge from you, and hopefully use your knowledge to change my life, to make a transition. And I think courage is very important as well in every part of life.
Yeah.
To make progress.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to find the courage to get back into the political scene because I told people that they almost broke me in 2016. So just need that push. Hopefully not off a cliff. But
I guess, to help to keep, not only keep the courage, but keep the faith in the job search when it's been nothing but discouraging.
Yeah, I also would like to learn, and how to have courage or apply the courage in the last steps, maybe the transition, and really take action.
Great. Well, since this is small, feel free to interrupt me at any time. I mean, really, this could be a great conversation. This is a tough thing to have, courage. So let's go through it a little bit. Okay, so that's my daughter, Caitlin. She's 21 years old. She's a senior in college. She's taking her MCAT and applying to med school. Really cool. So when I was 22 years old, I had Caitlin. I made $9 an hour. I had no money in the bank. I was living with my mother. The whole thing was very difficult. A couple weeks after I had her, she was a great kid. I mean, she is a great kid. She was a great kid. She was easy the entire time, was not a whiner, very happy child, didn't cry. A couple weeks after I had her, I was having a bad day. I was upset. She was crying, and I said, Mom, why is she crying? And she said, well, because she can feel you being upset. So one of my first lessons was, if I needed to be a role model for my daughter. So when I thought about that as a bigger purpose in life, it started giving me the courage to be a better mom. It was scary, but I wanted to be that better role model. And that was my first lesson, is just think of it as something that could mean bigger purpose for you, bigger purpose for others around you. And I have little quotes on every one of these if you want to look. Are you good?
So good.
So kind of like Ken said, I have a pretty wild career. I've spent most of my career in e-commerce and digital marketing. I've headed up divisions at Sports Authority, Blue Mercury, Office Depot. I've had a lot of fun. I've grown e-commerce revenues tremendously. I've developed organizations. It's been really hard. It's been great. I have a master's in leadership and a bachelor's in criminal justice. Neither one of those did I have when I had Caitlin. I had to go get those after I had a child by myself. Colorado's most influential power. I still don't know to this day who nominated me for this, but that was pretty cool. It's a really neat moment in my life. There were 6 other women that got it with me, and just an amazing moment. He said 9 years, and that's true. I spent 7 active years in the military, 2 inactive. I've spoken at a lot of different places. I've done some guest teaching at Wharton School, William and Mary. I did a podcast at William and Mary. Most of it has been in two different areas, building businesses, especially in the retail world, especially in the e-commerce world. But the other side, I've done some women in leadership type speeches, and those have been really neat to see that, especially women, to gain leadership roles, it definitely takes a lot of courage to make that happen. I've led teams everywhere, and a lot of people are looking for someone to support them, to have the courage to speak up, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Is, how do you have that courage to speak up? A lot of times, if you can be an advocate, the next time you need someone to be your advocate, you probably got one. So it's all about advocacy sometimes when you're talking about courage. And now I'm moving into my own consulting firm, and this has been probably one of my most courageous moments for myself personally. I do make a majority of the income in my household, and I don't say that to tout myself. I say that because it makes it harder. There's more fear involved when I'm going from making significant money to none, basically. So, this is something I'm dealing with at this very moment. So you know what? Anyone who's been has been courageous. Anyone who has had successes also has a lot of mistakes in their life. And I just want you to know that I am an accessible person. I don't have all these wonderful things happening, and nothing has been on the downside. There's a lot of downsides, and I like to be vulnerable. Vulnerability and courage are one and the same. They're a foundation to the other, and they can be very tied together. So being vulnerable to you guys, I have been fired twice and pretty much almost fired 2 other times because I am strong, I'm aggressive, I speak my mind. I've been told I'm too aggressive, I'm bossy, I'm a bitch. I've really been told all 3 things several times. It's hard. It's not an easy thing to do, and it can bring back your ability and desire to be courageous. You have to keep going. I was put in a position of being the leader of an 120 person platoon. There was 20 females and 100 men when I went through basic training. It's probably more of a 50-50 now, which is a miracle. There was even 20 females when I went through it. And they were putting different leaders in on different weeks. And that just was like utter fear going through that. But I got through it. I survived, right? I did not do well on my SATs. I was very much the person who never did well on tests in my household. So, I don't have the perfect record, right? I've got drive. That's, I guess, what I've got. And I got my bachelor's degree. I was a solo parent. I had a career. I had to have a job. So I didn't finish with the best GPA, but here's some things, and I've still had a lot of great success in my life. So I just wanted you to see that it doesn't mean that you're always going to have this perfect step-by-step, nature going within your career. You're going to have some downwards, and those are okay because they're really actually great learning opportunities. There's nothing, success is not as much of a learning environment as mistakes are, and mistakes won't kill you. Mistakes are great learning environments for all of us. So what is courage? Well, I've been told so many times, wow, you're so fearless, Jennifer. I have never been fearless, ever. I always have fear. Sitting in here, up here. And when Ken said courage, and I looked this up, I was like, yes, that's exactly what it is for me. Is I am working through that fear all the time. I'm not fearless. I just had somebody call me that 2 weeks ago. So, it sort of was a validation for me that, you're not fearless. You are strong enough to have that fear and still work through it. That's what courage really is. Why is it important? Well, one of the things is I think about the times in my life when I've been happiest, and it's usually during the moments that are the hardest for me that I get through that hurdle, and that I feel really good about, and I'm really happy. And then I think about moments where I'm not as happy, and it's been, to be honest with you guys, it's probably been the last 10 years of my career. I've had an amazing amount of success, but I'm not as happy. It's not as hard, it's not as challenging. I don't feel the stretch to be courageous, and we don't feel that you don't put yourself in a position of being as happy. Courage is directly linked to being the key ingredient to happiness. So just remember that when you're thinking about how can I get through this fear, when you get through it, you'll probably be happier. It is the number one and actually the number 3 regret. Bronnie, does anybody know the last name of her? I forgot. Bronnie, and I'll have to pull her last name. She was a nurse. She asked thousands of dying patients, what is your number 1 regret of dying? And she wrote a book about it. And her number 1 was dying today. Courage linked to being true to oneself was the number 1 thing that they regret. They didn't have the courage to be true to themselves, to be themselves. So I would, that's something I think about. I'm like, do I want to get to the point where I'm on my deathbed and have that regret? I don't. I really don't. And number 3 is pretty closely linked to that, but she wrote a book about this, so feel free to look that up. Confidence becomes the outcome of courage. A lot of people believe confidence is what you need to have courage. That's not necessarily true. Courage is a muscle, and it's something that you can continue to flex over the course of your career. And you won't flex it every single time, by the way. You don't need to have courage at every given moment that you'd like to have courage. But when you do have courage, you're flexing the muscle. And when you have courage to get through something, it's not whether the outcome of that was successful or failure. It's the fact that you got through the task itself will build your confidence. So confidence is not built on the fact that you were successful or failed at the task. Confidence is built at the fact that you had courage to get through the task. So remember that when you're thinking about that. Don't worry about the outcome. And it is the number 1 trait of great leadership, having courage. So, by the way, leaders are at all levels of an organization, right? Leaders and titles do not equate to each other. Leaders can be at any level of the organization. If you're influential to a group of individuals, or you watch someone who is influential to a group of individuals, no matter their title, they are a leader. And likely they have the courage to speak their mind when it's appropriate and in a diplomatic way. Is this helpful? Anybody have any thoughts or questions? Anything going through the mind they want to talk about? Want to
So
go
you
to
made comments,
pause?
Jennifer, what's your definition of courage? You got that? Did I miss that? Okay, pushing through the fear.
Pushing through fear.
Can you share an example, another example?
I can share tons of examples.
If anybody else wants to share?
Yeah, would anybody else like to share an example of courage? I'll go first. Or do you want to go first?
No,
go first. So I was heading up the sports authority role I took a few years ago was a major role for me. I was recruited for that position. I felt maybe 50% qualified, but I wanted that role. I was heading up an e-commerce division, was a multi-$100 million e-commerce division. I had to have that role. So I got it, and then I was quite scared as I was in there. In the first 60 days, I did some analysis on the business itself, put together about a 50-page deck, and met with me and the C-levels, the CEO, the CMO, the CFO. It's probably the scariest meeting I've ever had. It was 2 hours long. I was sweating like gangbusters. And the CEO, after the meeting, everyone thought it was great, and the CEO sent me a special message. I was just happy to get through the meeting. They felt it was better than that. They felt that I did an outstanding job. I analyzed the current state of the business quite well. I came up with ideas for the future of the business. I really wasn't even thinking about that. I was just in such fear. I just wanted to get through that meeting. So that was probably one of those moments of courage where I had to sit down and just muscle through that meeting. Did you have one?
Many, maybe I think that when you were talking about your starting your business and the fear and quit something that you actually have that is good to something unknown. I think that the moment in my life, the biggest one was actually when I took the leap to come to the US and I quit absolutely everything in my life in Spain.
Wow.
From language to job, family, friends, husband, everything that surrounded me. And I was 44 years old, in an age that, normally people are like, oh, I'm about to look at my retirement and, have the house. And I came here to like knowing one person and zero else. And didn't have clear what I wanted in my life. So that's, I really think I was, and then I don't share in this way a lot, because I learned here that it's a positive thing, but many times you get that look that, oh, crazy. So I think that's the biggest moment of courage in my life. I really took a leap of faith in myself. That is, yeah.
That's a good definition too.
Yeah.
Faith in yourself.
Yeah, yeah. It was your first time, and maybe 44 years old, and I didn't speak even English. So
That's amazing. Wow.
That's cool. Was the biggest one.
Anyone else want to share one? Yeah.
November 16th, it will be 5 years since I basically, like you, took a leap of faith, walking away from a job that I had for 24 years. It was becoming an incredibly toxic environment. And I had a very strong suspicion my time there was coming to an end for a lot of reasons. Actually, I recently found out the company got sold, so I probably would have been let go anyway. Basically spent the last 5 years volunteering, freelancing stuff, and more importantly, trying to figure out what do I really want to do with my life. I'm still trying to look for an answer. But I don't regret leaving that job.
Well, I'm glad you're still looking.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's now getting to the point where I have to look for something.
Anyone else?
When I was doing the presidential inauguration, my boss recruited me, and I was looking at deputy director, but she pushed me to take a director position, and I felt like I wasn't ready, but she had enough kind of courage or confidence in me that I took it, and it made all the difference. So because I had someone had that confidence in you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What else? All right, let's move on. So, courage, everyone has courage. Courage is not genetic. Courage isn't a trait. It's not an intellectual quality. Courage is within you, I guarantee it. Think about the things you've done where you had a little bit of fear and you worked through that fear. Whether you're forced to do it or not doesn't matter. The fact that you did it is you with courage. Courage doesn't have to be that you're saving people out of a burning building or something, very, very momentous. It just is the opportunity for you to work through your fears and get through them. And you've done it. So think about the fact that you've done it, because it will help you with the next time that you need to get through it. Yes, you are a courageous person right now, every one of you. You've done one of these things or something of the like, I'm sure of that, right? Especially moving to a new country. I guess I could put that up there. But you think about whether you've lived long enough to know that you've gone through some things. So you are courageous right this second. You can be courageous again. It's more than possible. So I don't know, I think a lot of you, do you guys have pen and paper? So if you can get a pen and paper, if we get everybody a pen and paper. I got a quick little exercise for everybody. I see you like quotes. What? You like quotes. I got a quote on, there was twice as many as what I could put on the slides, and I thought, these are just fabulous quotes. Yeah, these are just amazing, and you're welcome to a copy of this PowerPoint. All right. Yeah. Do you have a pen? I need a pen. So Okay, for right now, just think about something that you'd like to be courageous enough to do in the future. Okay? Or right now, or in an hour. Okay, now put that aside for a second. I want you to write down one. So remember, all these very things that happen in our lives that make us work through our fears. Think about 1 to 2 courageous acts and write those down. Something that you worked through, whether it was getting on a plane and going on a flight, and you hate flying, you have a fear of flying, or you worked through something of a fear because you feared failing at something, but you worked through it anyway. Just write down 1 to 2 of those. Recognize the fact of very tangible, courageous moments you've had. And don't worry, you do not have to share these. So you're welcome to share them if you like, but you don't have to. When you're done with that, I want you to go back to that future activity that you'd like to have the courage to do. So now it should sink in that you've done some courageous things. You've got some confidence there you've reminded yourself of some of those acts of courage you've had. So now go back to the one that you want to have, the one you want, the fear you want to work through. Think about a bigger purpose. So when I talked to you about Caitlin, my daughter, the fact that I was making no money, had no degree, had a $9 an hour job, the bigger purpose for me was to try to be a role model to her. I've also had others where, when I develop organizations, and most often I do, I will walk into an organization, I will hire anywhere between 15 and 60 people in the first 12 months. I've done that at Depot, Office Depot, Sports Authority, Blue Mercury, and several prior to that. The deeper meaning for me is to be a good role model to them too. I want to be a great role model to them. And then when I do women in leadership types of activities, I mentor 4 female college students. I go up to Wharton School for a day, and I do a mentoring activity for about 6 hours, different activities. My whole purpose is to help them develop themselves. And I try to make these things bigger meaning. It helps me work through my fears. So what is your bigger purpose, or what is a bigger purpose that you can think about when working through that activity? Another thing is that you want to work through that worst case outcome, because honestly, if you just write it down and you just get it down on paper, it's like you've now got somewhat of a control on that. You know now. You've got an awareness. And the more awareness you have of that worst case outcome, the easier it is to digest, the easier it is to deal with if you were ever to get to that point. So worst case outcome, for sure, is a very important aspect. So write that down. What is the worst, if you went through this task, you went through your fear, you got it done, somehow it became a big failure, what is the worst case of that? It's probably, if you write it down, less than what's going through your head right now. More than likely. Now, thinking about getting through it, what is one action you can take this week, one step forward? One of my favorite cliches is don't swallow the elephant whole. One bite at a time. What is one thing you can do this week? One of the things I'm doing each week with my DiMotta consultant is the one thing I do have control over, which is contacting folks to see if they're contacting folks I know. I'll be clear about that. I've got I've got a LinkedIn account. I've got individuals I've worked with in the past, and I'm picking obviously those off first. They know me the most. They know my skills the most, and I'm contacting 3 to 5 folks every single week. That's what I have control over, so that's my action. this is a big one. I remind myself often of this. Will it feel worse to not take action than to fail or make a mistake when you take the action? So this is what finally got me to make this decision on going into or opening DiMotta Consulting. Is I would regret it if I didn't open my own company. I know I would. I would rather open my own company and fail hard than never do it at all. I was following kind of the life of, oh, I've been getting recruited here and getting recruited there, and I make more money each time, and I have a better title every single time, and I thought that would make me happy. Don't follow the money. Follow your happiness. That is what I've learned throughout all of this last 10 years is I've got to start following the happiness. And I would rather be happy at failing at something I really want to do than making more money and not be happy. That's my decision. That's how I think about it. So I suggest, it's just an opportunity for you to think maybe that way as well. Yeah.
I once took a job like you for the money, and I tell people it was great for my wallet, but bad for my soul.
Yes.
It was
Love
really
that.
bad for my soul.
Great for the wallet, bad for the soul. Don't follow the money, follow your happiness. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, your comments are on target. However, I have found in my experience in working with people and coaching them, et cetera, that if they really have a strong passion with what they want to do and creating their own business or whatever, generally they're successful.
Yep.
Yep. It really, the determination is so strong that failure is not part of how they're thinking.
That's right.
So.
That's right.
Yeah.
One of my biggest, what I believe in is you learn more from failures than you do from successes. I also believe you cannot be successful without failure. I do believe they're very linked together. I've had several failures and I've had several successes. Those failures sort of helped me learn and then helped build a bridge and allowed me to success. So I do believe that you have to have one, the failure part to get to the other, the success part. All right, is everybody done with their activity? Does anyone want to share?
But I think also don't take action is a kind of fear or regretting something that you did, and that also comes to with yourself.
Yeah, not taking action?
Not taking action.
Yes. Because then it just stews, right? It just stays in your mind, and you don't take the action, and it continues to stay in your mind.
Make you going back again.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What if you're doing something that's making you happy, but it's not really providing for you? Because I know you said don't follow the money, follow the happiness.
Yes,
But
that's
what
a
if-
hard one.
What if you're doing something that's making you happy, but it's almost to the point where it's not keeping a roof over your head?
Yeah. Yeah, at some point you do have to provide, right, for the family. You do. Now, I was really happy making $9 an hour with a child by myself, sole parent. I would often, after paying bills and getting groceries, have $20 left in the bank. But I wasn't unhappy. But I wasn't necessarily paying the bills. I'm not saying it's one or the other per se, but if you have to follow something, I would suggest following the happiness and then hoping the money comes up right alongside it. Now, if that's not going to happen, I guess, that's where courage steps in, and you're looking for something that's going to make you happy and it's going to make you money at the same time.
That's
the hard part. Yeah.
Finding something where both of them come together.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what they're-
But if you're going to lead with money and not be happy, I don't recommend that. Have the courage to flip the prioritization, not let one of them go, but flip the prioritization. Okay. Thoughts? June?
No, I just believe that there's going to always be a price to be paid.
Yeah.
And I think today we're living in a world where a lot of people don't want to make those sacrifices. They just want to go straight to their passion, which is great, but then if it doesn't provide for a long time, not just yourself suffers, a lot of people around you suffers too, if you have a family. So I believe that to go for your passion, but at the same time, you go that slowly. And I remember back then, I was working, so, and then after work, which was hard, but after work, I would go and do my business. And so that's why I have money coming in, but also I'm following my passion. It was hard, but it's those sacrifices, long term, it works out. Because as you keep going with your passion, you know, no matter how, because you don't know how long it's going to take to provide income from that. So if it takes a year or two, you still have that job, you know. So I believe that, you know, there's going to always be a price to be paid, either we pay now or later. So
That's right. That's right. It's your life. You make the decision. My husband and I talked about this, and I'm at the point where I want this so bad that if it doesn't work out, you know, we've agreed on the sacrifices that may have to get made, the house that might have to get sold, the fact that college tuition may not get paid, my daughter may be taking student loans out, right? I mean, there's sacrifices that you do have to think about. You have to be smart with your happiness and the ability to make money. You have to be really smart. You have to be thoughtful about it. And yes, if you have a family, getting their buy-in, communicating, working through what those scenarios can be, that's what that worst case scenario outcome is. Work through it, write it down, know it, have an awareness to it, so that if it ever gets to that point, you know the decisions that you're going to make. We've made those decisions. We've decided it's worth it to do this rather than being unhappy in my career. And here's what happens if this didn't work out perfectly. We are going to sell the house. We're going to eat ramen noodles every night, whatever it is, and cereal. You know, I love Lucky Charms. You know. So yeah, that's I guess that's why this is such a courageous moment for me. I'd rather take the action and let the outcome be as it may. I'm certainly going to be driven enough to work towards a successful outcome. I don't let things just happen. I do pay attention to the universe and make sure I'm in alignment, but I don't just let things happen. I make sure that I'm controlling what I can control and making happen what I can make happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and what you described, talking through this with your husband, you know, and going through this worst case scenario, and also this is really what I got to do
Yeah.
for happiness.
Yeah.
And getting that buy-in, you've got a partner, you know, marching forward.
Helps a lot.
Yeah.
Helps a lot.
Have you ever thought about maybe doing it part-time till you kind of get your feet wet and get everything established, and once you can see whether or not it's really going to be a success, then maybe go full-time? Or are you just going full-on?
I have met with a couple meetups of women consultants, and there's quite a few who do it that way. They feel better about doing it that way. I am taking the leap of faith and gonna just cut off the full-time and go straight for it. So we'll see what happens. It's all about what you want to do and what makes you feel best. Yeah, it's your life. It's ultimately not, you know, anyone else's. So your decisions become a part of you, and that's why it's important to make decisions that you feel should be a part of you.
And I think in different times of your life, the priority of money and happiness also fluctuate. And there are times in your life that maybe your focus should be money for whatever reason, and then another one that just go totally down when you are just looking for something that make you feel good. That money is totally secondary, even though, you know, we all need it. So
Yeah, that's very true.
Change.
It will fluctuate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a
Your
balance
balance.
between the two,
Yeah.
right? And you had a book about this, right, that we were just talking about, that money and happiness, sort of.
Oh yeah, Money and the Meaning of Life by a man named Jacob Needleman. You familiar with? That's a wonderful book of trying to balance that, you know, living a life of, you know, somewhat spirit, you know, and then but living in the world as well. And money is is what gets us by, and how do you bring those things together? It's fabulous.
Sounds like a great book.
So I would like to get into consulting,
Yeah,
but it's going to take time. I've been out of the workforce for a year. So, and my wife has been, working as a consultant, doing very well, but she's working all the time. And I'm, and we have a young daughter, and I'm doing everything for her. So, my plan is to reestablish myself in the industry by getting a full-time job, corporate or government or something. And then, after a period of, I don't know, maybe 3 years, then to, have kind of a book of potential clients.
Yeah, right.
And that sort of thing, so that I can move to that model.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. What is normally the number one fear people have?
Being broke.
Failure.
Failure.
Fear of failure. Oh,
Oh, sorry, time's out.
time out.
Well, fear of technology. That's a different-
Fear of, yeah. Fear of failure. The more that you can write down what failure means to you with each of those moments that you fear, the more you are going to have a grasp of it, and it's going to feel more, not comforting, but at least you have an awareness. What does failure mean to me when it comes to consulting? What does failure mean to me when it comes to public speaking? And all of a sudden, you kind of got more of an awareness. It can be released a little bit more. It's not that it's going to go away. It's going to calm down for you. That is the number one fear most people have, is a fear of failure. So make sure you just create some tangible awareness of what that means to you each time you feel like you're going to fail. What does that mean specifically?
Could I add to that a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, but I think most people, especially younger people that haven't had a lot of experience, they're concerned with how society is going to look at them in terms of their failure.
Right.
Because if, as you age, as you go along and you take chances and you do things, you recognize your personal successes each step of the way, but it may not appear that way to society or your family or friends or whatever. So you're constantly combating that pressure, from the outside stimulus rather than the internal going along step by step. I was a headhunter. It took me a long time to develop a clientele. I didn't make a lot of money for the first year or two, and I was also a partner in a software services company. We built HR systems, early 90s. A career builder beat us to it. So we had years of not making a lot of money. But eventually, those things did develop into successes. So it's patience in terms of how you manage, your interests and moving forward.
Right.
And not letting society tell you whether you're a success or a failure.
Yeah.
But do you think society is being told to be successful?
Society what?
If you think that society offers a right to be successful, to be not failing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You would think. Yeah, and we're going to talk about this. There's a lot of phrasing out there right now. That's don't care about what people think. Don't care about be you. There's a balance to that. You should care about what the closest people to you think, or at least I do. That's what I believe. All in the balance is if you don't agree with even those closest individuals, let it go. One of those things, let it go. Believe in yourself first and foremost. Take the advocacy where it exists. And where there is an advocacy for things you believe in strongly, let it go. Everyone has a right to their own opinion. You have a right to whether you're driven by it or not driven by it. Okay, so 5 work slides. I was on a panel. It was very interesting. I was on a panel to talk about 2 females negotiations. It was very interesting. I actually just talked to 2 folks last week they got an offer letter and they're working through negotiations. And this is a tough one. I did some research a few years ago about the fact that women don't often negotiate the right amounts of salary, the right total compensation for themselves. So, and sometimes it's literally a fear of I'm not going to get the job if I do this negotiation. So in the effort of having the bigger purpose, where I want to be a role model for other females, I've done every single one of these, not on the fact that I'm just so utterly confident. I just work through it because my bigger purpose is I'm hoping I'll be able to help somebody else with the fact that these things are hard to do through your career. So this is a huge one. Many men will apply for a job, even if they do not have 100% of the qualifications. Most women will not. Almost, it is such a low percentage, it's almost worth saying almost no women. And let you look through the qualifications, and if you don't even align to one, you don't apply. The worst case scenario is you don't get called, right? That's not a bad scenario. I suggest if you are looking for a job and you like what you see and you have some of those qualifications and you're very interested, yes, apply for the job and then also go find somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, because networking is the name of the game. Make it your whole purpose to go find out how you can get that job. Show them that you're able to do it even if you don't have all those qualifications. I have put many job descriptions together, and you probably have more skills than I do, but I have put many together. And I often put 3, 4, 5 more qualifications in there than I actually need. I do, just a tip, I prioritize the qualifications and I prioritize the descriptions. So if you're kind of aligning to those first couple of qualifications or first couple of descriptions and you are interested, go for it. The worst case scenario is you don't get a call. The best case scenario is you get a call and you're really interested. Go for it every time. Yeah.
Can I support that even
Yes.
further? As an employment manager, I hired hundreds and hundreds of people. I did not hire people that had 100% of the qualifications because there was nothing for them to learn.
Yeah.
The key question I always ask was,
That's a good point.
why are you making a career move? And I wanted to hear the word challenge. And I wanted to hear that there are things in this potential job that I want to learn.
Yep.
I knew then that person would be successful in the job.
Yep.
So there's a psychology behind a lot of this. So yes, I certainly encourage people to apply for jobs if that's the direction you want to go in, even though you don't have all of the qualifications.
Correct.
I think people should bear in mind that the average job description isn't actually all that good.
Right.
And they're not all that well written sometimes,
Yeah.
so that taking it with a grain of salt is probably a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, also been on the hiring side.
Yes.
Often it's sort of thrown together, and you've described the perfect purple zebra.
Yeah.
That's
It doesn't
right.
exist.
That's right. The perfect purple zebra. Everybody think about that when they're looking at it. There's no perfect purple zebra.
Right.
Or you're the perfect purple zebra, okay? So one thing, I hired e-commerce teams back when no one had e-commerce experience. Late 90s, early 2000s, right? I couldn't go seek experience. It's one of the easiest things to do is go seek somebody with the same experience than what the description says. I didn't have that opportunity. I hired for potential, the skill sets that people had, the personality that they had. Being self-driven, being self-aware were the 2 highest qualities I look for. Have an awareness of yourself and be driven by doing the best thing for the business, driven by doing the best thing for you. Align those 2 things together and you probably got the job. I still see and still look for potential like that, even where there is experience today in the jobs that I now have posted these days. I'm still looking for those first and foremost. So So that goes back to the qualifications and the descriptions. They're not always first and foremost when now you're going through the first interview and the second interview. It's your personality, it's your drive, it's your ability to say that you can do this and step forward. It's your ability to work with others. It's all those things you probably have that are now going to take the lead in the conversation. So go for it. You know, if this is a job you really want, go for it. And, you know, you can apply for the job, and I think everyone knows, though, go find somebody that knows somebody there. It's really important to be able to touch base. Or call HR, take a chance. You know, hey, you know, I wanted to know a little bit more. I was going to apply for this job. I'm very excited about it. And start seeking the opportunity to have a relationship with somebody at the company. That will get you a lot further, a lot faster.
Sometimes when you talk to people, you find that it'll save you time and HR time because you don't want to apply for it.
Yeah.
Because if you find out more about the culture. Also on
It's
negotiation,
true.
Linda Bobcat actually did a book on Women Don't Ask in 2003. If you haven't had a
Women
chance to
Don't
read
Ask?
this, yeah, it's amazing. She was my professor, so that's why.
Oh,
That was
great.
one of the classes she was
Awesome.
looking at.
Okay, great,
So.
awesome. Negotiations. So in every single offer letter I've negotiated, primarily just because I'm thinking about, I need to. This is an activity I have to do. I have to get used to this. I have to have the courage to work through these activities. I do my homework. You know, I make sure that I understand, you know, what the company, if I can find anything about the company and what its general philosophy on compensation packages are. Or, you know, I go out to a lot of those websites that kind of talk about salary. I do think about the size, things like size of the company, where the company is located. I think those are two important things. And I generally get fairly aggressive with my compensation asks. I go for it. The worst they can say is, well, how about we go to this point, right? I mean, they're gonna probably respond to you. They'll probably give you something.
Right.
You'll probably respond back, and they'll probably meet you in the middle. So be ready to be meeting in the middle on some regard. And if they don't, great. And I mean, if they're saying, okay, that sounds great, never miss an opportunity to negotiate components of your compensation package. If you believe that they're being fair and you're willing to take that negotiation from the time that they place that offer, they're not. They're expecting a negotiation. So go for it. Ask for it. They want you now. Don't buy into the fact that you're not going to get the role because you negotiated. What you're showing them is you're intelligent. You have the smarts enough to be able to ask for a negotiation. All of those things play into setting you up for when you come on board and how they, you know, look at you from that very start. So total compensation could be anything from salary to time off to your title to equity to anything bonuses. And if you have a bonus on the line, make sure you get clarity as to how that bonus is going to get paid out. That's important. A lot of people would try to be like, well, we'll wait till you start, and you know, then we'll talk about get a general understanding or propose a general understanding if they're not willing to propose one to you.
Get it in writing.
So
That's
get
what I
it
was
in
just
writing.
going to suggest.
Get it in
In
writing.
writing.
That's right. And it's not because you don't trust the company, it's because you want to set both sides up for a win-win. That's your goal.
It's also
So-
to protect everybody, basically, in a legal sense.
It is. That I would proposing it more in a win-win or kind of a positive notion, knowing that it also covers the other side of it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on that? Has anyone had success in their negotiations? Yeah?
Yeah.
No? I was like scared to death
Yeah, I was scared to
of a negotiation. I knew I had to do it. I knew that much. But I was scared to death in this negotiation between, I was heading up the business side of e-commerce at Office Depot, and I was headed over to Sports Authority. And I asked for a very significant jump up. And I was scared to death, but I did it anyway. I felt like they wanted me enough where I could ask for that salary. And it wasn't because they said it, it was because I decided to talk myself into that. I was like, I'm gonna believe for just 5 minutes that I am the person they want for this, so that I have the guts and the courage to go ahead and ask for the salary that I feel like I deserve. And just when you think that, ask for just a tiny bit more. I mean, because women generally think they deserve this when they really deserve that, right? So do your homework, especially if you can on the company, but at least do some homework across the internet. Don't bring it up, by the way. I've had people negotiate salaries because I've hired about 150 different people, and most of them are salaried, and they'll walk me through for 5 minutes about how they looked on salary.com and they did this and they did that. Do the homework. Your best course of action, in my perspective, is to talk about why you deserve the salary, your skill sets, your positive outlook, the fact that you're driven, you're going to be an excellent team player. Talk about that even though you did the homework. Don't bring the homework into the conversation. Okay?
Yeah, just one addition to that too is if you accept a salary that you don't feel is fair, you probably will never be happy in the job.
Right.
You will be looking very quickly to make a career move.
Yes.
So, and remember, the decision has been made to hire you. So now the company's made that decision. So it's up to you to get the salary or negotiate, what you feel is appropriate for you to be happy in that job. That's part of the psychology of it.
There's also a
Very
lot of strategies from companies out there. I've made the mistakes myself. Never again. Is they'll give you a bigger salary increase on the first year out, 90 days from now, whatever it may be. Most often, your best leverage, when you have the most leverage, is that offer letter. Once you start, after that, you don't have much leverage. You should, and we're going to talk about that in a second, where you can ask for raises, but you have the most leverage at the time of the offer letter. Take advantage of that, for sure. And unless it is in very specific writing, like a year or 90 days, don't believe anything like that from verbal, because usually what you're doing is you're getting that from someone who doesn't have the power to make that decision. So, use the leverage at the very beginning. Believe in yourself. Just all you gotta do is have a 5-minute conversation. So you gotta work up that courage for 5 minutes. You hang up the phone, you're like, okay, all done, I did it, kind of thing, right? It's moments. Courage doesn't have to last hours, days, months or anything like that. It's moments of courage that are important. Yeah, go ahead.
Question. In your experience, let's say you were in a negotiation like this and you had the courage, but it fails in the sense the company decides that you would not, they don't want to continue with you because of this negotiation, or you push too much. What do you think a company can go through this thought process, like, oh, she has, pressure too much, or she has negotiated, and I think she's going to be too pushy, so better kind of step back.
I haven't had that personally, because that's where the homework comes into good play. Because you do have to balance being a good player in the business and take care of yourself. It can't be one-sided. But I have had that because a lot of the folks that work for me are young. I work in e-commerce and digital marketing, and they're young. And I had one, when I first started Blue Mercury, and she just pushed and pushed and pushed through the negotiation. And, I liked the drive enough to, I did not, we met in the middle. I did not feel like what she was asking for was completely fair, but I liked the drive. She was never not going to be, unless she just insisted. And she was fine too with that compromise. So eventually I think she saw that I needed to compromise for the sake of the company and the budget. And but her drive was, I was thankful for, and to this day, she's my most driven individual.
What if, say, the company sets a particular salary range and say, this is it, and you keep negotiating like, okay, I think I deserve more. I'm trying to think of how I want to word this question. I guess, where would a company draw the line when they say, okay, they're asking too much, this is what we're offering, take it or leave it?
Yeah. I've had that experience once with Office Depot, and I've still found that they have ways of working additional compensation, sometimes through bonus, which I've gotten, sometimes through extra days of PTO, which I appreciate. So there's other means in the compensation to build a better package for you, even if salary. And if ultimately the salary is not where you want it to be, you really have to think hard if you want to take that role or not. Because at that point, you have to say, I'm okay with that salary once you accept that offer.
To answer your question, government contracting oftentimes has the salary ranges, which make it difficult for the companies to negotiate at higher ends possibly, because everything is tied into their profits, hiring someone for a particular job on a government contract.
Yeah,
So-
and even some government jobs, because I have family members that work for the
Right.
government, and each salary range is like, okay, this is it.
Yeah.
There's
So
a mid, max, and.
Right,
Mhm.
so,
Yeah.
and you don't want to go in at the top of the salary range, because that can stifle your increases if you stay there.
Oh, yeah.
So, there's a lot of nuance to a lot of it, especially in government
Absolutely.
contracts.
Yeah, I've actually
Yeah.
not had the pleasure of working.
Yeah,
in the
that's what I
government.
did for
I've heard
years.
it's, heard it's challenging.
Yeah,
I don't know how we're doing on time, but so some other opportunities of courage in a workplace: speaking up, taking accountability, asking for a raise or promotion, or saying no and setting boundaries. Does anybody have any experiences in these areas they'd like to share?
I have an experience where I worked for a company for a couple of years, and then the owner decided that he wanted to compensate all of the designers differently, who were also doing sales and so forth. And so he wanted to talk with each designer individually, and he did. He didn't lay out the policy changes until you went into that meeting. And so, I went into the meeting and I read it through and I did a little calculating. I said, so if I agree to this and you're not offering any greater tools to me or resources to me, I'll make less money doing the same amount of, doing the same volume. And he said, well, no, you have the opportunity to. I said, I know, I always have the opportunity, but, I'm your top seller, and you're telling me that I'll make less money if I do exactly what I did last year. And I said, dude, that's my input. And he said, well, he wanted to get our buy-in, and so I was giving him what I thought, and he said, well, this is the way it's going to be. And I said, well, then I quit. And I had 2 young children at home. I just could not stay in that place.
Wow.
I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So.
That's courage. That is courage. Yes.
But I mean, it just in that moment, there was just no way that I could.
Yeah.
That I could like say, well, yeah, I guess that's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I set a boundary there.
Sounds like they wanted more work for less money.
They wanted more money going to the top.
Oh, yeah.
There's the same amount of money, but more would go to the younger. So.
Well, I left my last role exactly for this setting boundaries piece. I had been with the organization 15 years. They decided to use a new structure and work, instead of having dedicated staff here in the DC area, they went with a management company that was actually based in New Jersey. And I went through led them through the entire process to evaluate, a dozen proposals, got it down, and selected this organization. And then for 8 months, I commuted once a week to the facility in New Jersey. We still had the office here, it was over in Alexandria, so I had a 3,400 square foot office to myself here in Alexandria, went up the Jersey Turnpike once a week to help the new organization get up to speed, hire people, staff up, and so forth. And then I just said to myself, this is not going to work. Because every conversation started with, well, the way we did that before was X, and then they would say, but the way we have to do it now is Y. And I just said, this is not working. Because all I'll ever be now is an anchor to the past, instead of part of the future. So I just stepped back and said, no, you got to evaluate this on your own. Now, for me personally, just to share, that was 2.5 years ago, and I'm still looking. But for them, I take a little delight in this. They're on their third company that they try. Really? Third management solution they try, because it's a classic overpromise, underdeliver type of thing. Perhaps didn't appreciate the value of having dedicated resources. But yeah, so that's an example of where, it's enough commuting, that was enough, and just said, let them evaluate that on its own.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I think that courage is, using the example of these situations, is something that sometimes we do or take decisions not really being aware that we are being courageous, but it's a skill or a talent that we have to feed. If in these situations you don't take the courage, you stay in your role, and it's something that we kill little by little. It's becoming less and less and more difficult maybe than to take less important actions that require courage.
Yes.
If we don't do something sometimes that's challenging and looks crazy or not very smart, or you don't know the outcome, but if we don't feed in these moments the courage, even these small actions sometimes that require courage, it's becoming really difficult to go through. That's what I felt sometimes.
Yeah. Because you do have to exercise that muscle, or there will be atrophy. And when it comes to atrophy, it means that you get less and less, you have less and less of an ability to have courage as an activity that you're comfortable with. So, taking those little moments will be very important. I've often had to speak up because I work in the e-commerce environment for retailers and catalogers. And most often, I don't know if you guys know the dynamics of a retailer, but when it's a brick and mortar retailer, e-commerce has often been seen as the enemy. I am very often the enemy to the brick and mortar folks, or I'm the enemy to the catalog. So I've been doing that for years. And I choose my moments to speak up. And I also don't win every single time. Sometimes I speak up and I get shut down. That is just going to happen. You're not going to, every time you speak up, you're not going to win. You can't set yourself up for that expectation. But when you do speak up, make sure it feels valuable to you. It's worth it to you to speak up. I go through that pretty quickly. I don't know if you've read, I think it's Malcolm Gladwell's Blink.
Yeah.
I practice that quite often. I try to make decisions in the blink of a second because I'm sitting in a meeting with executives and I have to decide whether I'm going to speak up on this discussion or not. But one thing that drives me is I don't want to walk back to my team and have not spoken up if they wanted me to speak up. Most teams that work for me love the fact that I do speak up and speak up appropriately. I remember one time I wasn't too good at the effectiveness of speaking up. Was the first, I had actually worked at Pure Play eCommerce, and then I went into a catalog retailer. And we went into an executive meeting. And it was me, it was the catalog director, female, the rest of the group was men. And it was like warehouse and finance and the president and the CEO and such. And at one point she said, the catalog director sitting right next to me is, we've really got to figure out how e-commerce cannot steal catalog sales. And I said, and this was my first meeting, and I was just sat there going, what? Okay, I have a choice to like go hide. This is my first one. I barely know these folks, or speak up. You know, and I chose to speak up. I wasn't super effective about it, but I got my point across that the point is to grow the total business sales, and I went on and on and on and on, right? You know, and the more that you just sort of take the courage, you know, I wouldn't, that was a failure that I really learned from. So then the next time I would do it better. If I didn't do that one and like fail at that, I don't know that I would have done the next one better, because it was a really great learning opportunity for me to not make now a bunch of enemies when I had a really good point to make, but I didn't make it very well. So it was just, those times do need to happen. You do need to look like a fool, I guess, in front of others. It's gonna happen. And you need to take that as a learning opportunity, not go hide, you know, and say, oh, I can't do that again. No, now the next time you're gonna do it better. That's the way to think about it. The next time I did do it better, and I've done it really well since. I've made a ton of friends on the store side. I've really learned how to be effective when I am potentially the black sheep, more than likely the black sheep in the room. I am the growing golden child in the brick and mortar, and they're declining. And so how do you make friends? That's hard. And I've done a really good job at it, but I needed to fail a few times to get to the point where I made those successes. Let's keep going. What do we got for time? Are we okay? 10 minutes? Okay, so some reminders and some recommendations for you. This we just talked about. You won't be courageous 100% of the time. There's going to be times when you just were like, darn it, I wasn't courageous in that moment. Don't beat yourself up. You'll be courageous again at some point in time in the future. I have been, there's many times where I've shown courage. There's many times where I have not. I didn't stand up for somebody. Whatnot, those moments, they happen for every single person. So don't worry about it. Just focus on the moments you have been. Congratulate yourself when you do. Make note of it. Focus on those times. Practice will result in more frequent courageousness. The more you do it, the more you get practice at it, the more you can keep doing it. We've talked about that a number of times, right? Small moments matter. Remember the list. Make sure that you're paying attention to the small moments. Just take a minute and say, well, that was pretty courageous of me. I got on that plane, or I rode that bike, or I swam in the lake, or I did a marathon, or whatnot. I did a 5K. I was in a march. Whatever it was, just take a few minutes. Give yourself a pat on the back. Be courageous in a graceful way. So when you need to speak up and you need to stand alone and you need to work through your fear, do it effectively. Do it where you care about the rest of the people in the room, as well as making a statement. They'll listen to you more. You'll have more success. Pick your battles. There's no reason to always have to be standing alone, right? Pick those battles that matter to you most. Leverage mistakes and failures. We've talked about that quite a bit as well. And pay more attention to your positive cues than the negative ones. So the folks that are telling you you're being courageous, the folks that are saying, go for it, pay more attention to those than you pay attention to the negative ones. Hard to do. It's something that you really have to think about. Ongoing. Get yourself used to it. It could take months. But start now. Start listening to those positive cues. I gave my notice actually to Blue Mercury last Monday. It was, total fear. I report to the CEO, and it worked out extremely well to the point where at the beginning I think I shared that they, are looking for me to do consulting once I leave. Those are the moments for me that matter. Find a role model, someone to encourage you. Do you know somebody who you feel's been courageous? Ask them questions. People love to talk about themselves, so why not, ask them, how have you been courageous? How do you suggest, you go about it? Everybody's got their own idea of how to work through fear. take care of yourself. One of the things is if you take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, you have a stronger chance of being courageous. Take care of yourself first and foremost. So these are 4 books I talk about with everybody who asks me, what are the 4 books that I love to read that I think have been the most meaningful in my career? And if you know yourself a little bit more every single day, you have a stronger opportunity of courage being a part of you as well. Are You an Effective Professional? My favorite book probably of all time, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. I've read it several times. I think the first time I read it, I had no idea it even existed. I had just had Caitlin, I was making that $9 an hour job, and they're basically like, listen, you're not really working with others all that well. You need to read this book. This was that almost fired one of those times. I went and got that book because I'm a learner. So I went and got that book that night. I read it within 2 days. I was like, wow. I mean, keep the end in mind. Put the big rocks in first. I just thought this was the best book since sliced bread. It really changed me. And I think that is a good moment for me to go from, I think, what was fear-driven, sort of like not playing with some people in my organization well, to I lost literally all that fear and just started being transparent and working with, I mean, literally it changed me overnight. It was just an amazing book. Do You Know Your Own Strengths? Another one, so fun. You can take a strengths finder, you can get your top 5 strengths. I think it's like $14. It's a book, it's a quick read. What better way to know yourself than to know what your top 5 strengths are and how you can utilize those strengths a little bit more. One thing I do with my team, and it's becoming very popular, is expose your strengths, reduce the exposure of your weaknesses. The more you can do that for others, the more that you can do that for yourself. Again, you're just creating more confidence layers that then give you more courage, and then it keeps going. Do you know emotional intelligence? Social awareness and self-awareness are 2 pieces of emotional intelligence. Very important. So there's one side of it is, are you intelligent enough from a skill set point of view, from an experience point of view? But then do you have the emotional intelligence to be a good team player? Can you collaborate well? Can you communicate effectively? Read this book. It also has a test. It will show you how socially aware you are, how aware are you of your environment, and how are you aware are you of yourself. And then last but not least, this is something I take my directs through with each company I've been a part of. I take the people who directly report to me through this immediately. It's a book, there's exercises in it, there's truly 5 dysfunctions of a team. Holding yourself accountable and holding others accountable. Peer accountability is one of the most important things to create good teamwork is peer accountability. This is an excellent book. Again, all of these are super short, super fast reads, and highly meaningful. You probably keep it somewhere and reread it often.
I had a really interesting story about 5 dysfunctions.
You do?
I worked at a company and they came in, stack of books, passed them out to everybody in the company. I was like, oh, this is great. And I took it home. I basically read it, in a night or 2. And I came back and I said, this is a wonderful book. Are we going to talk about it? Oh, no. We just want to mention you.
Oh.
And then like a year or so later, where my wife was working, they passed out the book. Mm-hmm. And she brought it back and I said, it's a terrific book. Are they going to, is there any follow-up? Yeah. Well, they haven't mentioned anything, and they never did. I mean, there was no
missed opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, there was no team.
Yeah. We did exercises. There's 5 dysfunctions, and we did 5 exercises to account for each of the dysfunctions, and and it's so fun, right? You don't want to go to work and work just work for 8 hours a day all the time. You want to create a team environment. So if you have a chance to lead a team, pull them out for an hour or two, whatever, take a chance. Another courageous moment for me, because my uppers most often don't like me doing this. I do it anyway. I have a phrase, I will die on that hill. When it comes to team building, I believe so much in it that regardless of whether I've got the support or not, I do it. So it's something I just have decided is important enough to me. I have the courage to do it. Okay, last but not least, do one brave thing today and then run like hell. Okay? Bing. There's my contact information. You're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can email me at Jennifer@DiMotta Consulting. You're welcome to ask me any questions. Literally, I've got people from my past. I have the 4 college mentors. I take the time to meet with people. If you took the time to email me and ask me a question, I will make sure I take the time to respond back to you. And I definitely appreciate that when people take that time. So, yeah.
Who are your clients going to be?
Good question.
Yeah, I mean, businesses or individuals?
Yes.
Yeah.
No. So, Sports Authority went out of business.
Right.
I had a very successful career there, though. I spent 2 years. I grew the e-commerce business from 50 million to 200 plus million in 2 years at a very profitable rate. And all those C-levels have now gone to new roles. So a couple of them have reached out to me.
Okay.
As well as people from my past, even further back in my past, have also reached out, or they have friends who own businesses so, I mean, I've got some pretty good progress on about 5 different clients, potential clients.
Organizations
including
or
Uber.
individuals or both?
Both. So I have done, I am happy for the career I've had. I'm incredibly blessed. I think one of my favorite parts is it wasn't just growing the revenue, because I didn't do that by myself. I found top talent.
Yeah, your team.
I am so good at finding top talent. I'm really good at developing top talent. I'm really good at empowering top talent. I motivate and inspire that top talent. That's what I'm most proud of. So that has been the most fun, of course. And then they're the ones that, really go get those results. They really make that stuff happen, right? So it could be anything from e-commerce strategy to how you should structure an organization. Right now, structures are everywhere when it comes to e-commerce. They can land anywhere in the organization, and they include a number of different teams under the organization. So e-commerce strategy, e-commerce organization, even some activities, large projects. I've done a number of different large projects in e-commerce, so we'll see what happens.
Jennifer, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. More fun this way, right?
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So special offer because of our intimate audience today. As Eric mentioned, we have another program coming up on Thursday evening, where it's going to be a related conversation in some ways. We're going to talk about career happiness and the fact that it need not be a myth, and what are the steps you can take to ensure that it isn't. So if anyone would like to attend, it's normally $10. I will make it possible for you to attend for free. So if you'd like to come back on Thursday evening, we start at 7 o'clock with a light networking, light refreshments and networking. Program runs from 7:30 to 8:30, and then we continue the conversation.